Hello everybody, I am here again and I'm going to talk with you about something which, if you are going to listen to yourself, you are going to definitely come across. And so, as you hopefully already know, I talk about embodied language in which you listen to yourself while you speak. Yeah. And so in embodied language, you talk out loud with yourself. You speak in such a way so that you can hear yourself. You can only hear yourself if you say something. Yeah. So listening to yourself while you speak is really involving the fact that you talk with yourself. Yeah. And this talking with yourself is only going to be embodied language if you're able to say what you want to hear, if you're able to say what makes sense to you, if you're able to say what you want, yeah? And so this talking with yourself is about your truth. It's about who you really are, yeah? Now, okay, I've already said this many times, but I just want to at the outset of this video make this very clear, that it is really about talking out loud by yourself. So just like you hear me talk right now, you also hear cars zooming by because I'm riding my bicycle along this road here. But you can tell here I'm riding my bicycle, I'm on my own, yeah, I am alone. I'm speaking out loud, I hear myself, yeah? So speaking out loud and hearing myself and saying what I want to say, saying what I want to hear, sounding also how I want to sound, yeah? And you cannot say what you want to say if you do not sound how you want to sound. So I want you to pay attention to how you sound. You don't do that. You don't listen to yourself in your usual disembodied language. So you have no real sense of how you are actually affected by the sound which you produce whenever you open your mouth. And so I'm affected by the sound of my embodied language, which makes me feel very good, which makes me feel happy, which makes me feel regulated, yeah, which makes me feel calm, which makes me also focused and conscious, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I enjoy myself when I hear that sound. That's my sound, that's my language, my embodied language. So once again, I'm reiterating the point that I'm talking out loud. I'm talking out loud with myself, alone. Do you see? I am alone. There's nobody here. And in many periods of my life, yes, I am married and yes, I have my wife, but I cannot bother her with this all the time. You know, I have to sort of just go on with myself. Yeah. And how do I want to do this? Do I want to talk with her the whole day about this? Of course not. This is insane. If I want to do that, I would drive her insane. And in some ways, I perhaps have done that because I was so needy in the past that I did that. But luckily, I have overcome that and I don't do that anymore. And our marriage is really fantastic and we are happy together. And I don't bother her, or anyone for that matter, with this anymore. Although I have. And embodied language is not about that. Embodied language is actually only possible after you've stopped bothering other people. Okay, so I hope you get what I'm saying. That you need to do this on your own. Yeah, you need to identify, discriminate. They say in behaviorism, you need to discriminate the difference between. Yeah. This is called discrimination learning. You need to sort of just recognize like, oh wow, I can listen to myself and then I sound different. then I say different things, then I feel different about myself, then my whole perception changes, then I want to do other things than what I'm doing. Then I don't want to sound anymore the way I used to sound. Then I don't want to do anymore what I used to do. No, I want to do what is new. I want to do what fits with me, what makes me feel happy, what sets me free. Okay, so that's all involved. Now, okay, you've listened to this, right? And you heard me speak, you heard me produce a sound, yeah? And I heard my own sound. And so that's what developing or becoming familiar with your embodied language involves. You cannot become familiar with embodied language unless you begin to speak with and listen to yourself. Yeah? And so that is how you acquire your embodied language. And then as you have done that, and I ask you to do this for the whole of 2025. Yeah, the rest of this year, I just want you to continue to do that. I want you to continue to talk with yourself and listen again to my videos and just draw from there the conclusion of how important it is for you to do this on your own. Not coached by me or by anybody. No. You just do this on your own. You just speak with yourself about what you want to talk about, what is important to you. You let yourself know, you tell yourself what you want to know, what you want to talk about. And you just begin to ask your own questions, answer your own questions. You listen to yourself and you realize like, wow, if I listen to myself, I have answers. I have questions that I've never really asked myself. I have answers that I never even believed that I was able to come up with. I'm able to say something new every time I have embodied language. I am new every time I have embodied language. Do you hear me? I repeat it so that you could hear it and that you could understand that repeating what you're saying doesn't matter because you are new regardless of what you say. Yeah? Now, so if you've done that in 2025, then we are going to quite likely meet in one way or another in 2026 and have embodied language together, because then we will be able to have embodied language together. And I guarantee you that if you are able to have embodied language, you are going to have it. So if it can happen, it will happen. And it's not a decision, it's a natural phenomenon that will occur if it can occur. Yeah? And so what I want you to do is I want you to begin to talk out loud with yourself. In the same way as I do right now. Tell yourself everything that you are able to tell yourself. Tell yourself everything that you find important, that you would like to talk about, that you would like to listen to, that you need. Yeah? What is your need? How can you know what your need is if you don't listen to yourself? You didn't listen to yourself. You didn't know what your real need was. And so when you begin to listen to yourself, talk with yourself, you begin to hear that this is actually your need. What I'm talking about here, this is your need. Yeah? You have a need to align your language with your experience. And yeah, once that happens, you have embodied language and you hear it. You know it. Yeah, if you do not know whether you have embodied language or not, you are not having it. So when you have it, you know that you have it. It is that clear. It is that evident, self-evident. Yeah. So, okay, you've heard this. Now I want you to switch a little bit with me, because this is why I'm saying all this so deliberately and so, repeatedly, so insistently. I want you to hear the following. When you are with your disembodied language, that's how you were conditioned. You were conditioned to not listen to yourself. You were not conditioned to listen to yourself. No. You were conditioned to listen to others or to make others listen to you. And so you are socially reinforced not for your embodied language. You're socially reinforced for your disembodied language. And you may not believe me, but that is the reason, this is the reason why there is no embodied language anywhere going on. Yeah? The language that I'm having. You don't hear that anywhere. Nobody talks about this because nobody knows the difference between the disembodied language. Hello, ma'am. Hi. And nobody knows that difference between disembodied language and embodied language, and therefore nobody is able to actually reinforce someone else's embodied language. So what we are reinforcing is not embodied language when we're being kind to somebody, when we are being courteous, or when we are being cooperative, when we are being social with each other. We are not ever reinforcing each other's embodied language, because if we were to do that, we would first understand and know that disembodied language would have to stop completely for that reinforcement to occur. But secondly, we would also recognize that this reinforcement of our embodied language will only occur if we're done with our disembodied language. So, first things first, disembodied language has to be stopped for the situation to occur in which embodied language can happen and will happen. Yeah? Hello. So, I was just looking at a cow. So, the thing that I want to address today is the following. That the reinforcement of embodied language, it requires that you have already had your own self-reinforcement of your embodied language. Yeah, so you have had to have had embodied language by yourself, and you have had to enjoy it on your own by talking with yourself, and then it can be socially reinforced. Because then when it disappears, when you're conditioning history with disembodied language reappears, which is bound to happen, then you are not going to hold that against me or anyone else who has reinforced your embodied language. No, you are actually now beginning to realize, like, wow, so my conditioning history prevents my embodied language. Yeah? And this is where the real work begins. Because you cannot get from me or from anyone else who supposedly then, because we make it seem as if, I don't know, other people can help us with this. Yeah, but nobody can help you with this. I cannot do that. Nobody else can. You need to help yourself with this. And you need to let yourself know that yes, your disembodied language is going to reappear. And whenever that happens, you are not conscious of it. It just happens automatically. It happens inadvertently. It happens due to your history of conditioning. And it is not a fault of you. It is not, it's not anyone's to be blamed. It is simply the inevitable outcome of your conditioning history that you have to own up to, that you have to deal with, that you have to acknowledge also before you can recognize, like, oh, I wasn't listening to myself. Yeah, that's right. You were not listening to yourself. And whenever that happens, you were, of course, also speaking in a way, that you were not listening to yourself. And and this is where my point is of this video. You're not only speaking in a way in which you were not listening to yourself, also when you are not speaking, when you are not speaking, when you are supposedly thinking, when you have thoughts, when you have private speech, you imagine that you have inner language. And so, when you're not speaking, due to your disembodied language, you imagine that you have inner language, and you imagine that you have a conversation with yourself inside your head. And you don't have that. This is just a fantasy which is created by your disembodied language. So the moment you actually begin to do as I am asking you to do, the moment you begin to speak with yourself about these so-called thoughts, the moment you begin to actually express with your sound, with your voice, what it is that you are feeling, what you're thinking, what you're experiencing, what you're remembering, what you're associating, what it is that you're fantasizing, anything that catches your attention, anything that supposedly is so to speak on your mind, what's on your mind, you just express it and you listen to it. So what happens here? What happens is that when you express what you supposedly think or what you supposedly say covertly to yourself, quiet self-talk, private speech with your mouth closed, you don't produce any sound, you don't hear any sound. No, you supposedly hear your inner voice. No, you just fantasize that you have an inner voice. You just fantasize that you are having a private conversation with yourself. There is no such conversation going on. But since you are used to disembodied language in which you do not express these things, in which you do not hear yourself speak, you continue with this fantasy. But when you begin to talk about it, when you begin to listen to it, you just realize that it is not true. Your fantasy is not true. And it disappears. It disappears. When you speak your mind, so to speak, and you listen to your sound of your voice, of everything you're saying, it just dissolves. Just like that. And if it doesn't, hi there, if it doesn't, then again, I insist, you're not really listening to yourself. If you are continuing to do this, continuing to express what is your thinking, your mind, your private speech, your fantasy of inner language, you just tell yourself about your fantasy of inner language, okay? And you just verify for yourself if what I say is true. And you don't do this to please me. You don't even do this to prove your own point. Yeah, because you may say, okay, I'm going to prove it to myself that it is true or whatever. No, it's not about that. It's not about that. It is about you talking with yourself. It is about you listening to yourself. It is about you having your access to your embodied language. And that has nothing to prove. That has nothing to, nothing forced, nothing imaginary. No, it's very real. And you will know it. You will know it when you have it. But as long as you are not having it, you are in doubt and you are troubled and you have all kinds of questions and all kind of, judgments that you're not good enough or whatever, that you need to improve and that you work on yourself. It has nothing to do with that. You do not need to work on yourself. You do not need to do an exercise. This is not speaking with yourself. Yeah, is of course almost instantaneously referred to by people as, oh, that is a new practice, is a new path, it is a new method, it is a new theory. No, that's not what it is. If you consider it as such, you miss the point. And the point of embodied language is that it is totally natural, it is totally effortless, self-evident, and it is so revealing, so comfortable, yeah? Yeah. And the dog is happy. The dog is happy that he's going out. He's already sticking his head out of the window of the car. He starts to bark at people. I'm going out. I'm going out. Yeah. So yeah. So what am I saying here? Just to sort of recapitulate. As long as you do not really express whatever is in your attention to yourself and listen to it, yeah? You listen to yourself, yeah? So then, as long as you not do that, you are caught up in your fantasy of inner language. And this fantasy of inner language, no matter how much you go on with it, no matter how much you think it through, so to speak, no matter how much you contemplate on what this is, and no matter how you try to understand it, no, this is not about understanding. This is about experiencing. Yes. Hello. Yeah. And the understanding is secondary to the experience. If you want to understand this first, which is your inclination with disembodied language, oh yeah, tell me something that I don't know. Tell me, speak to me in such a way so that I understand. No. You don't understand, you can't understand as long as you do not experience what this is. So, this is why I insist you need to experience for yourself what this is on your own, without anybody interfering. Yeah? In 2025, I hope you're going to do this. And I hope you're going to express your illusion about inner language, which you call your mind. And then, yeah, you are going to have your own experience, your own understanding. Wow, so I can hear myself. And when I hear myself, everything is different. Yes, that is true. And then you say different things, and then you use your language differently. Yeah. And that is your embodied language. You know you have it. You feel it, you experience it, you hear it, and you know also by what you're saying, because your words are very different. Your understanding is increased. You have acquired, yeah, you have acquired self-knowledge, which works, which shows you that what you are saying is true, because you get consequences of your self-reinforcement of your embodied language. If you manage to continue with it a little longer, you notice there are consequences to this. You're feeling happier, you're feeling more self-assured, you're realizing that you can do this. You realize that you don't have to be stuck in your conditioning with disembodied language. You realize that you're free, even though the conditioning history may still reappear. But you know, by listening to yourself, you can actually get yourself back on track. And you become more and more capable of doing exactly that. So I hope you're going to do that in 2025. And then in 2026, we will be able to have this conversation together. And then we will celebrate our language enlightenment. But as I have been saying on this video, as long as you just sit by yourself, or you just continue to have your so-called thoughts, you continue to have your inner language fantasy, you're not going to get into acquiring embodied language. You can only acquire embodied language by speaking out loud with yourself and letting yourself hear your own voice, which expresses everything that you want to talk about, everything that you find important. You have your own truth, you have your own priorities. And you need to listen to that. You need to express that. You need to be also instructed by that, because that is ultimately what's going to happen. You're going to instruct yourself with your embodied language instead of what you have been doing, and which has catastrophic consequences. You have been instructing yourself unknowingly with your disembodied language. This is why your life is so troubled. This is why you never get clear. This is why you are always doubting. This is why you are always, dissatisfied, frustrated, upset, conflicted. It just never stops. So, begin to express all these things instead of just mulling it over, what people then have called mind fucking, when people are just having mental health problems, they are ruminating, they are catastrophizing, they are having all kind of cognitive distortions. You know what I'm talking about? Well, all of this what I'm talking about, they have all kind of false beliefs, they have assumptions, they have attributions, all these kind of things. They have memories and they have past trauma which is reenacted again and blah blah blah. All of this deals with the fact that we believe in inner language due to our disembodied language. And only if you are going to say out loud what all of that is to yourself so that you can hear it, so that you can clarify it for yourself alone and come to your embodied language. Because what it means is also that you begin to describe your disembodied language with your embodied language. Yeah? And so you begin to describe your illusion of inner language with embodied language. Exactly. And that's when the illusion stops. That's when the grip of this illusion is gone. You are truly liberating yourself with your embodied language. Because your embodied language is real. Your disembodied language and the illusion of inner language is not real. So both, of course, disembodied language is an overt behavior. When I speak in a nasty way, in a forceful way, in a punitive, coercive way, in an authoritarian way. When I speak in a way that you don't matter, and I'm forcing my ideas on you, I don't care about who you are and what you say. You see, that's all disembodied language. And I ignore you, I disrespect you, I'm talking at you, I'm giving you orders, I'm telling you what to do and how to be and when to speak and when not. I'm in charge, I'm the authority. I basically enslave you because I am the speaker, I'm doing all the speaking. And you just have to listen. And you have to do as I say. So all of this has been going on forever in the name of disembodied language. And that is what you are now describing with your embodied language. And it stops. So your disembodied language is overt, but the covert aspect of your disembodied language is the fantasy of inner language. And of course there is no inner language. There is no language inside of you. But when you say this, when you tell yourself that it is true, that there is no inner language, when you hear yourself say that overtly, then you realize like, wow, there cannot be covertly any inner language. There never was. There never was a mind. There never was thought as we have previously described it. There was only how we have dealt until now with our language. And when we begin to listen to ourselves while we speak, we begin to deal with our language in an entirely new way. So, it's going to be a very beautiful experience if you do it, and if you begin to also get the consequences of your own embodied language, especially when all of that is reinforced by me, or by anybody who is able to reinforce it, because they know the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. I know, as the person who has developed this whole understanding of language, I know for a fact that many people claim to know about embodied language. They don't call it that, but they don't. And so there's researches about this and that. They have never actually explored this, because this has nothing to do with the group behavior, which is always involved in any kind of scientific activity. It is sad in a sense, but also inevitable, that science has evolved in such a way that, and that is due to our disembodied language, science has evolved in such a way that it could never bring our attention to this issue. Only the person who on his own, like I keep saying, has talked out loud with him or herself, listened to him or herself, could begin to understand, wow, now I am listening to myself. Now I have embodied language. And yes, of course, I could also talk like this with others. And I want to talk like this with others. And I am going to talk like this with others, because why would I want to talk like this with myself if it wasn't for the fact that I can also talk like this with others? Yeah, I can, you can, and we can. And so this video is to stimulate you, to challenge you, and to also stop wasting your time reading books, doing exercises, or listening to people who tell you this and that. You just need to talk with yourself, and you need to listen to yourself. And you are your own authority, yes. And whatever your fear or your anxiety may be, whatever your confusion may be, whatever your frustration may be, you need to tell yourself about this. Yeah? You need to tell yourself about your struggle, and you need to tell yourself about your I'm taking a little shortcut here over the grass so that I can avoid people that are walking on the path. Hello. There's many people in the park today. It's kind of nice, you know. Everybody's playing baseball and soccer. Yeah. Wow. So many cars here. And as you can tell, I have made this this big explanation, this big exploration, and you can tell how this affects me. How this affects me saying this. That this is my truth, this is my clarity, this is my way of life. Yeah. And I'm sharing that with you already, yeah? If you're open to hearing what I'm saying, you already experience, by just experiencing me, you not only experience my embodied language, but you also experience my enlightenment. And my enlightenment is your enlightenment, yeah? Language enlightenment, that's what I call it. Because it is enlightenment that is created and maintained by our ongoing embodied language. And so, yeah. I'm still going a little further today. I'm going back on the path here. It's just, interesting how one has an inclination to do something that one normally doesn't do, and that results, of course, in new outcomes. And I want to take you with me into these new outcomes. Yeah. I'm riding myself along on this path. Here, this is where I am. I just love to be here, you know, because you have a nice view over the hills here in the distance. And here you are at the edge of town. And I love to be here, even though it is a very cloudy day and it may rain later today. I have a day off, which is also nice. So I want to once again address the importance of not just sitting there by yourself or walking around living your life and thinking your thoughts. Yeah, people have overrated the importance of thought incredibly. We have basically imagined that the most important thing about language is the language that goes on inside of us, which is a complete and utter falsehood. There is no language inside of us. And the importance of language only begins to dawn on us when we begin to listen to ourselves and speak and say all the things that we are capable of saying. So we don't say what we think, we say what we are capable of saying. We say the words that we know. Yeah? We only have so many words. We only have so many ways of saying what we are able to say. And we are devoting ourselves, you could say. Yes, and I believe that is a good word to say that. We devote ourselves to becoming fully verbal. Again, meaning to say that we express everything we are able to express. Everything. We don't make any exception for anything. We express it. There's no part of who we are which we haven't talked about with ourselves. And nobody else needs to know about it. This is our conversation with ourselves. Nobody has any judgment about this. We don't have any judgment about ourselves because we are one with ourselves. That is what embodied language is. Yeah. So you need to talk about everything you're able to say. Everything. And yes, it may sound as if this is a big task. Start it. Get to it. You have your whole life to do it. And to the extent that you do this, even if you look, there is no. I am still to this very day. I have been doing this for the last 45 years. Yeah. To this very day, I am still amazed that every day I express my embodied language and it is new again. Every day. And I discover new things. And I have evolved into something which is so wonderful, so great. And my life has just improved and improved, and it just keeps on getting better and better. And it has never stopped. It has never stopped. And it isn't stopping. It's just wonderful. Hello. Yeah. So I am very, very convinced and very experienced in having faith in. This is also something that I haven't really talked about much, because I don't want people to associate what I do with religion. But since it has to do with having faith, having trust in your own ability to have embodied language, there is, of course, you could say, there is, of course, this what people would call this spiritual aspect of embodied language. I still hesitate to call it that, because everything spiritual is such a distraction from what this is. Yeah. But let's just call it faith. Let's just call it trust. Yeah. You trust that you find your way. You trust that it will work out. You trust that what you say with your embodied language, you listen to yourself, and yes, it will take you into explorations of everything you have never said to yourself. Yes, that is what it will do. And you trust that this is good. You trust that you can take yourself through all of these things, and that you will come out better. You will just have to trust that. Because you cannot know beforehand where it is going to lead. Yeah? You cannot predetermine your embodied language. Your embodied language is free. And so in your freedom, you just go with the flow of what you know, or what you want to know, or with what you discover, and what inspires you, what makes you want to explore more. Because embodied language is such that when you have it, you just want to explore more. I've said, it is the gift that keeps on giving. It really is. So, and where does it end? Where does it go? There is no end point. There is no. It just keeps on going. That's what freedom is. Yeah. And so there is a need. I've recently also expressed this quite often. There is really a need for everyone to there's a need for everyone to get used to this, to get used to this freedom, to this expansion of who you are. And that will happen. Sometimes you just feel like, whoa, this is too much. This is incredible. This is so amazing. It is. And you are doing this. You are saying all this. You are hearing all this. You're amazed by yourself. And and then at other moments it just seems totally simple and normal and calm, and there's no excitement. It's just you. It's just you who you've always been, and you finally find that you have your feet on the ground, that you can always be this way. You are that way. That is who you really are. And your language becomes totally natural and realistic and effective, and you are not getting carried away. You're not getting stuck. You're not having any problem. I mean, I was feeling pretty troubled, when I was younger, and also worried and frustrated and anxious, like, oh my gosh, I have this whole life ahead of me. What am I going to do? And who am I going to be? And how is this all going to work out? And look where I'm now. I could have, back then I could have never imagined that I would be this happy, that I would be this fulfilled, that I would be this capable, this accomplished, this incredible satisfaction. I have such satisfaction from my embodied language. And all of this is going to happen if you are going to do it. And so these are the benefits. These are the, the outcomes, the inevitable outcomes of what is in behaviorism called a behavioral cusp. A behavioral cusp is when an individual acquires a certain behavior that gives access to multiple reinforcers. So, for instance, if you learn how to speak and read and write, if you become literate, that is a behavioral cusp. And then you can read books, you can have conversations with people, you can watch movies, you can be on social media, and you can have friends, you can have social relationships, you can study, you can acquire knowledge. Yeah, there's all these benefits that come from being literate. You can find a job. Oh, don't forget that. You can have a big career. And yeah, you can become a scientist if you want, or an astronaut or whatever. Anyway, embodied language is a behavioral cusp. Yeah, once you have embodied language, you will have a new perspective on your own behavior, because you begin to realize that yes, I want behavior that fits with my embodied language. I don't want behavior that distracts me from my embodied language or that prevents my embodied language, because it doesn't go with it. It goes with disembodied language. So yeah, there's a lot of behavior that we have which we will have to abandon, or we have to sort of just stop it. Yeah, that's what we do. And so, okay, I'm gonna leave it here for now. And somebody's calling me, so I need to answer that call.